Welcome everybody to this webinar. Today in this session, we are going to see an overview of the Beas Analytical Insights, a set of dashboards to display information related to the Beas processes using the B1 app dashboards, and also combined to the possibility of seeing these dashboards on the web. We are going to see analytical dashboards with a lot of interactivity, giving you the possibility to analyze data in different ways and dynamically filtering and selecting the data to display it in a way that it's very easy to use and can give you a lot of insights over the system functionalities. Using the Boyum app dashboards functionality, we even have some calendars, for example, for production scheduling, for maintenance, and even a Kanban board in which we can have a brief overview of the production scheduling. All the dashboards that we see in here are all coming in by default with the B1 app installation. So if you have Beas installed and you install B1 app and you activate the dashboard interface, you are going to have all the widgets to activate the dashboards that you see in here. However, the calendars and the Kanban that we are also going to see on this presentation are expected to be released on the June B1 app version. All the other dashboards are already available on the April version. The production analysis dashboard is a dashboard that will show you data related to the execution of the production process. Here we have information like, for example, the production profitability. Production profitability is an analysis over your production costs, so it will actually sum up all the costs that you have to manufacture your products and calculate what was the average unit cost for producing each one of the products. Then this is compared to the average sales price to project the sales amounts and the profit margins that you could have when manufacturing these products by the cost that they are being produced. So considering the projected profit margins, it will also calculate here the percentual profit margin for each one of the products. And you are going to see some highlights here to indicate, for example, if the product price is too high considering the sales price and the production costs, or if it might be okay, or if can be potentially too low, or if it is too low. The indicators can also be customized according to the customer's specific targets for profit margin. All the dashboard can be very easily edited using the dashboard editor from B1 app. The dashboards come in by standard, but you can change all the dashboards, add in more information, changing the information, changing all the icons that you can see on the dashboard. So for example, for the profitability indicators, I can easily come here and edit the rules and define my rules for the different ranges of profitability. In this case, I say that I don't want to have profitability greater than 70%. And this, I'm going to see here an indicator saying if my profitability is maybe too high, or for example, if the profitability is lesser than 20%, then I'm going to see a red icon to indicate that I'm having too high costs for that product. After the production profitability analysis, we are also having here a resources efficiency chart. In the resources efficiencies, we have a comparison in between the planned production time and the actual times for executing the production processes. And by comparing the two of them, we have an efficiency indicators in which you can see the resources that are more or less efficient to execute the production. Then we also have here two columns that will show the marginal and full costs that the resources are having for executing the production in the time ranges that we can select on the top. So if I want to know my costs on this month, I can just click here and all the data on the top of the chart and also on the production cost over time will update to display data related to this month. And I can easily compare this to the last month just by clicking here, or the last quarter to this quarter. Or seeing, for example, the last 12 months or compare this year to the last year. Here on the production cost over time, we can see how our production costs are evolving on the different months in which we had production registered. And this also gives us the possibility for some interactivity. For example, if we see months in which we have too high costs and we want to understand why our costs are so high in that month, we can just click on that month and see here an analysis of all the resources that have composed the cost on that month and the cost for each one of them. Also, an analysis over the efficiencies of that resource. It can be that the costs are high because the resources were less efficient on that month. And then we also have here an analysis of inventory coverage for production. The inventory coverage have some time filters. You can define here the intervals for checking the inventory coverage. The interval filter that you see here only applies to the inventory coverage, not to the rest of the reports. And you can see the projection of your stock in days for all the materials you have consumed in the last 7 days, 30 days, 90 days, or in the last year. So if I want to see, based on all my production transactions on the last 90 days, how much days I still have of stock for the materials that I use in that period of time, I can see here the items that I have used, a calculation of the average daily issues, considering all the issues for production I did in the last 90 days, and compare this to the stock I have on hand. This will tell me how much days of stock I have for each one of the components. We have an indicator here telling us if we might have too much stock for that components, or if our stock might be okay, or if our stock is too low, considering always the lead time for resupplying this material. There will be a calculation to define this indicator comparing the stock in days to how much time it takes for us to resupply these components. Our next dashboard after the production analysis is the production planning overview. The production planning overview is a dashboard that gives you a series of analysis over the production planned to be executed and the production already executed. This dashboard is composed of 3 tabs. Summarize scheduling, that will give you an overview of all the items you have in production as open work orders or items that you have already produced. Then we have the detailed scheduling. Detailed scheduling will only show the data of open production, detailing all the tasks that needs to be executed in each one of the work orders, and also giving you the possibility of understanding if you have or not enough stock and resources available to produce the different production tasks that you have open. And finally, we have the execution overview tab that will only look at the works that you have already completed and will provide a series of KPIs for you to understand how you are performing in relation to your plan. On the Summarize Scheduling tab, we have here a list that will present all the open work orders and also the closed work orders with a detailed status for you to understand, for example, if on the open ones, they are overdue or they are planned, and on the closed ones, if they were finished in advance, finished on schedule, finished overdue, and all of that you can see in a summarized way here on this chart. So this chart will summarize the information you see on the list, and you'll say how much orders you finished overdue, on schedule, on advance, how much you still have planned, and how much you have open overdue at this moment. Apart from that, we can see more information like what's the work order number and its priority, the items, the planned date to start a production and planned end date for production. This comes from the order scheduling. So if you're using APS, this information will reflect the scheduling done on APS. Effective start and effective end, considering the time received registered for the work order. A column in which you can see the quantity that you have confirmed in relation to the planned one, with a bar that will fill up for you to visually understand how you are completing the orders, and a column here for the delivery date. The delivery date will always be highlighted in red if it was not accomplished. So if you see an open work order and we are already past the delivery date, or if the planned date to finish the production is past the delivery date will be highlighted in red for you to know that you might have problems on that work orders for certain customers or even for certain forecasts. In the case of finished production, closed production, it will also be highlighted in red when you finish it past the delivery date. And as a result of this comparison in between the dates you finished and the date you're supposed to deliver, or even in between our production planning and the delivery date, you're going to have a KPI here to tell you how much orders you delivered on time considering the total orders that you had. Here I see a global KPI for the production delivered on time, but we also have the possibility to have this per customer, because here on the left side, we have a customer list or even a project list. If you make production to customers and you want to know how you are performing for each one of your customers, you can just click here, click on the customer you want to analyze. Here you can also graphically understand if you have open orders delayed for that customer. If I have an open value and this cell is not highlighted in red, then this means that the open work order is not delayed. But when I have open work orders and the cells are red, this means that there are some delays in certain work orders for this customer. When I click on the customer, the data here will update to filter only the work orders related to this customer. And I can see here what I have open and what I have closed. And the delivery dates will be in red if they are already passed or if the scheduling is past the delivery date. Here, the KPI will update to display the data related specifically to this customer. So in this case, 79% of all the orders I had for this customer, I delivered on time. And I can see this for each one of the customer. If I am a project manufacturer and I want to understand from all the orders I had in a project how much I finished on time, I can also click on the projects and see that this will update for the projects as well. Now, this report, apart from analyzing the work I did, also presents me the work that I have open. And if I want to very quickly see what I have planned to be worked on today, I can use the quick filters and select what I have for today. Each one of the options on the quick filters will go building over the previous one. So if I want to see today, I click on today. But for me to see today and tomorrow, I have to select both today and tomorrow. And the first three options if I want to see all the planning for this week. And this and the next week, I have to select then the first four options. And for seeing the whole current month, I have to select the first 5 options. But I can quickly select here and filter the orders that I have open for the different periods of time. Now, if we go on to the detailed scheduling tab, we can see a list of all the tasks that we have open to do in production. Remember that on the detailed scheduling, we don't see anything related to closed work orders, only operations that we have open at this moment. And we have some quick status here that will tell us, for example, if this operation is scheduled to be done today, or if it is for today but already overdue. So based on the time that we are now and on the time planned for the operation, this is an already overdue task. Or if they are planned for tomorrow, or even if they are overdue from past days, or if they are planned for the future, what we can see here in gray. If you want to filter, you can also use the header of this grid to filter as well. I can just click here and select, for example, all the operations that are overdue for today and see them here on the list. Now, if I want to see everything, I can just click here and clear the filter. Each one of the grids, even the previous ones, can also be filtered by clicking on the header. This grid will present us the tasks that we have to do, the planned start and end dates. Again, this can come from the APS scheduling when you use APS. A detail of the work order number, position, and operation, and 2 columns that will tell us our capability for performing that task at this moment. The first one of them is stock. As you can see here, we have an analysis of stock requirements and availabilities on the bottom of the report. This will tell us how much we have on stock and how much you require for the different production tasks that we have open. And we will highlight all the components that we are missing on stock. But this is not only a general analysis, as this can help me to understand what I am missing for each one of the operations that I have open. For example, I can see that the stock indicator is red for this specific task. If I click on it, the stock requirements will update to show me only what I am missing for this particular task for production. And if I want, I can select 2 of them by holding Shift, for example, and then have a consolidated analysis for that 2 tasks. Then I can also clear the filter and I can open up this grid to see all the components that I am missing and all the components that I have in stock at this moment. Then after the stock, we have the resource analysis. The resource can have up to 4 different indicators. If we have just a green icon with a blank or gray background, this means that the machine is available at this moment for performing this task. If this is yellow, this means that at this time, the machine is busy performing another work order. And if we see it with a green icon and a green background, this indicates to us that at this moment, this operation is being worked on at this resource. And we are also going to see this green light here that indicates that this order is in work. On the summary scheduling, we also have the same green icon to indicate that that work order is in work at this moment. If we want to see details from one particular work order coming from the summary scheduling, we can also filter from here. So I want to know for this specific work order which operation is being worked on now. I can just click on it and see the details here on the detailed scheduling. So those first two tabs can work together. What I filter here is also detailed here on the detailed scheduling as well. If I take out the filter, I can see everything on the detailed scheduling again. And I will also see in red the resources that are interrupted and a list of all the tasks that are affected by this interruption. This is also very dynamic, meaning that I can combine different filters to see the details here on this list. If I want to know which operations I can work at this moment, I can just select the ones for which I have stock and the ones for which I have resource available. And I will see here a list of all the operations for which the machines are free and I have enough stock to produce. If I just want to know the materials that I am missing for production, I can just click on insufficient and see here the list of all the materials that are missing at this moment. Or even the orders that are affected by missing stock. So I can see the ones for which the resource is available, but I don't have stock. So this is actually what's hindering my possibility for executing production. Now I'll take those filters out. And here I also have filters for customers. If I want to know all the planning for specific work orders I have open for a certain customer, I can just select the customer and see them here. And even for projects. So here I can also click on a project to see what I have pending for that project. I can also click on a material to see the different work orders that are related to that particular material. For example, I have an item here that is the GI wire. I want to know which work orders I have open that are pending to be done because I am missing this material. I can click on it. I see that 2 work orders are being affected for this lack of material. And apart from that, this dashboard also allows me to understand in which tasks the shop floor operators are working on at this moment. For example, I can see that this operator is active on production. And if I want to know what are the tasks that this operator is doing, I just need to click here, and then the dashboard will filter exactly the tasks that this operator is working on at this moment. Or if I want to know which tasks are being affected by an interruption for an operator that was working at that moment, I can click on a line that says interrupted for me to have an analysis of the tasks that this employee had to stop because the machine had a problem or have to be stopped for preventive maintenance. And also, this will present me a list of all the employees that are free at this moment. So if a production manager is looking at this report and want to know which employees it could allocate to a certain operation, it's just to look here on the free employees list. The list that you see here on the top for the planned operations to be executed will also display the name of the operator that is working on at this moment at that task. So if I move down, I can see that, for example, this operator started this task at this day and at this time and is working on it at that moment. This also combines the possibility of having this dashboard updated at every 1 minute that we can set here on the dashboard settings. When we set up our dashboard views, we can define here the intervals of time for refreshing the data, can make us to have an almost online data regarding to, for example, stock availabilities and the execution of the production at this moment. So this can be used as a tool to understand how the production is going on the shop floor, which employees are connected to each one of the operations, and can even be transformed into a panel to be used on the shop floor for the employees to have an updated work plan in real time. Here I have the detailed scheduling, and using the function of Boyum app dashboards on a web browser, I could open this in a computer linked to a television on the shop floor and have the employees to see in almost real time with a refresh at every minute what's the state of the work orders at this moment. And as soon as an employee connects to one particular task, the name of the employee working on it will be displayed here. The dashboard that you see on the web can also be used with the same levels of functionalities and interactions that you have inside SAP Business One. So this could also be a cockpit for the production managers to interact in the same way that we have seen before. For example, clicking on the orders that we have stock, selecting enough stock, and selecting the resources that are available, and selecting here also the employee to know the orders that that employee is working on at this moment. So I can just click on the employee. The same filters that we can do on the dashboards inside Business One, we can also do on the dashboards on the web. And here we also have a resource analysis. In the resource analysis, we can see the resources that are working at this moment. And if I want to know which orders are being processed on that resource, we can click on it and see the order here. But also we'll display the resources that are interrupted and the list of orders affected by that interruption, and the resources that are waiting for scheduling. If I want to know the planned orders for this machine, I can click here and see all the planned work to be done on this machine. And also the resources that are free without any scheduling. And we can see here the resources that have at this moment nothing scheduled for them. And the latest tab that we have on the production planning overview dashboard is the execution overview that will give us an analysis over the production that have been completed or is in work at this moment. We can see here operations that are in progress and operations that are completed. Operations that are open and planned will not be displayed in this analysis. Here, we can even filter for days. For example, if you want to know our KPIs for the last 7 days, this month, last month, this year, or last 12 months, I can select it here on the time filter. In the detailed scheduling, as you can see, we have no time filters because the detailed scheduling only work with the open tasks from the open work orders. So we don't do any analysis from the past on the detailed schedule. On the execution overview, we're going to see here a series of KPIs linked to how we are executing production. The first one of them will tell us how we are performing in relation to the planned quantities for production. So we are, in global terms, completing 93.5% of the quantities we have planned to produce. And also taking a look on our global indicators, we have an 0% of scraps compared to the total produced quantities. Now, comparing to the planned times, we are only using 8% of the total times we planned for production. And we are executing 92.3% of our operations in time, considering the scheduling that we have planned for the different operations. But now, instead of looking at the global picture, I might want to know how each one of our operators is performing on the shop floor. I can just click on the operator, and the KPIs will update in real time considering the data linked to this operator. Here, if I select another operator, I will have the data updated again considering what that particular operator have done. The same thing I can do for the resources. If I want to know how a specific machine or work center is performing, it's just to click on it and see. This one, for example, has a little bit of scraps compared to the total production quantity. And this one is taking much more time than planned to execute the production. And we can also see for the different items. So if you want to know our productivity indicator for particular products, we can click and see. For example, this one is an item for which the planned times are totally bad dimensionated because I'm taking way much more time than planned to complete the production. And apart from that, we can define some productivity goals for our resources and see how we are performing at this moment. The productivity indicators that you see here on the bottom are not related to the filters that you can see here. If I define a filter, this will only affect the KPIs that you see on the top, not what you see here on the bottom. This indicator will show our current productivity rate compared to productivity goals that we can define on the resources. And we see both an analysis over the hourly goals and the daily goals set on the resource. Inside the resource master data, if I open up this resource here, for example, I can see that I have a field in which I define an hourly production goal. This is one of the standard user-defined fields that we have on Beas. I have activated this here in the configuration wizard under master data, resources, and here the UDF4 I have called hourly production goal. Then on this field, I set how much pieces I estimate to produce per hour on this resource. This is very useful if you have a continuous process line that will be, for example, processing the whole day, and you want to know how you are performing in relation to your daily targets. If we come here on the dashboard, we have here an explanation that the productivity goals are set on UDF4 on the resources, and you can activate it on the configuration wizard as we have just seen. Now, the system will calculate how much we have completed from the time receipts that you create directly on the work orders, for example, using the terminals for shop floor data capture, and we'll compare this amount to the productivity goals you set on the resource. I can see here that I am 1.45K below my goal, so I have actually completed only 50 pieces in production in this hour. I should complete 1,500 pieces. This is why it's telling me that I am way below my goal for the current hour. And it will also project, based on the hourly goal, my daily goal. And the projection of the daily goal considers the calendar set to the resource. So it will come into the resource and check the capacity you have for the resource. If you have days without capacity, this will also be considered because it looks at the current calendar for the resource. So if you have, for example, non-workable days in Saturday and Sunday, it will calculate correctly and discount this amount from your productivity goals. The same thing if you have planned, for example, a partial downtime in the resource. And this will reflect your productivity at this moment. And then we come into the capacity usage dashboard. The capacity usage dashboard will present a series of analyses for you to understand how you are using your capacity, also including the possibility for you to see how your resources are going to be occupied in the future, especially if you are using the APS feature for scheduling your production. This dashboard here is divided into several parts. We have this big part with a series of pie charts that will graphically display the occupations for the different resources we have in the factory. We can see, for example, that this resource is 100% interrupted. This one has a partial interruption, but also have some free time, scheduled production and executed production. This other one have mostly free capacity, but also some scheduled production, and so on. And if we want to see this on a list, we can do on two different ways. Check in the resource groups, we can see how the different sections of the factory are occupied, and also looking at the specific resources. And this even including interactivity possibilities. I can see here, for example, that my alternative resources are 33% interrupted. And I want to know which machine is interrupted. I can click on it and see that from the 3 resources I have inside this group, 1 of them is interrupted and 2 of them are free. Now I see that, for example, on my 0B group, I have 98% of free time, and I want to know how the resources inside this group are occupied. I can click here and I will see only the resource inside the group that I have selected. And I can also take a look on some individual resources. I want to see a detailed chart only for this resource. I can click on it and see here only the resource that I have selected. Apart from that, I also have a chart here on the bottom that will show how I am productively using my capacity over time. The line that we see here on the top represents our capacity, and the bars that we see on the bottom represents our productive usage of our capacity. Productive usage means executed production or scheduled production. This will not consider interruptions or setup times. And if I want to know in a global analysis, the numbers of how much I'm using from my capacity, I can see this on this capacity usage overview grid. This grid is inspired on an existing indicator called OEE for overall equipment efficiency. And this will allow you to understand the different usage you are doing to your existing capacity by starting with a total capacity, then discounting the interruption times you have on the machines, discounting your scheduled work, the times for setting up the machines. The times for setting up come from the time receipts linked to the time type setup. You can set up on the resources here under the cost tab multiple time types. The first two ones are always setup and production. So whenever you create a time receipt linked to the time type setup, this will be considered as setup times here on the capacity usage chart, and also the time that you have actually worked to display here an analysis of your resulting free capacity after all that. The capacity usage dashboard is also available on the web, as well as all the other dashboards in the same way as you can see inside SAP. So if I select capacity usage dashboard, I can also set a refresh rate here on the top, and I can graphically see how much I am using the capacities of my different resources. Now, the capacity usage dashboard also allows me to understand how I am planning to use my capacity on the future. If I want to know how my resources will be occupied in the next 7 days, because here I am only looking at how much I have used the capacity up to this moment, I can click on next 7 days. Then I can see which resources I will have down on the next 7 days for interruptions, which resources are already completely scheduled for production or almost completely scheduled for production, and the ones that are free. Here I can see also on the lists. So I can see the list for the groups and for the resources. I can also click here and see details for each one of the groups that I select. Now, another thing that we can do, and this is also possible with all the other dashboards that we have, is to define a custom time range filter. So if you want to see more analysis at what you have here on the pre-made filters, you can click on set filters and build your own analysis. For example, I want to know the whole next month. So I was seeing the next 7 days, but I want to know the whole month of May. I can then select the month of May, start and end date, apply, and this will display the planned capacity that I have for the month of May. Here I'll see, also on the detail overview, how much of capacity hours I have, interruption times that I am planning to have on the month of May, and the amount of scheduled work. I'm not going to see setup and working because I will not have time receipts created on the future dates, but I can see here the resulting free capacity that I will have on that time. Then we go into the factory states dashboard. The factory states allow you to very quickly understand the state of your factory at this moment. You have this first part of the dashboard that will display in red the resources that are interrupted, in green the resources that are in work, and in gray the resources that are at this moment stopped waiting for scheduling. Considering that being stopped waiting for scheduling can happen for a series of different reasons, this dashboard also helps you to understand why the resources are stopped and not working. This can happen, for example, because the scheduling is for the future, so I don't have anything that I needed to work at this moment. But this can also happen because I have orders that I should have already completed, I have orders overdue, but I don't have stock to produce. And this is why the machine is waiting for me to have stock to be able to produce. And then I see here a list of all the machines that are waiting because I am missing stock. And if I want to know the work orders affected by the missing stock, I can just click here and see a list summarizing the work orders that are stopped for missing stock at this moment. And apart from that, I can also understand how this can financially impact me by taking a look here on the items in production. Here I'll see all the fodder items that are in production at this moment, the number of work orders that I have for them and also for all the sub-assemblies related, and the amounts that we have in open sales orders for each one of the fodder items. This item, the PA277, I see it twice because I see both the item and also a subassembly. This is also why the value is displayed twice. But I see that I have an amount of 480,000 in open sales orders for this item that I cannot fulfill because I am missing materials to produce the orders that I have open for it. The same kind of analysis I can do with any other categories that I have inside the waiting group. Here on the waiting group, we can see orders that are scheduled for now and that we have stock, orders that are scheduled for now but we don't have stock. I don't see it here at this moment, but we also have that category. And regarding the overdue orders, we can also see the ones that we have with stock and without stock, and even the work orders that we have scheduled for the future. In the same way, if we want to know the orders that are being worked on the factory at this moment, we can just click here on the in-work group and we'll see it. And we can also click on particular resources. If I want to know why this specific resource is not working because of missing stock, I can click here and see the orders that are now stopped on this resource for missing stock. The same if I want to know in which orders this resource is working. I can just click here and see the order that is being processed on this machine. And also the interruptions. If I want to know the orders that are stopped at this moment or affected by interruption, I can just click and see the list here. And apart from that, we have a list of all free resources that are resources without any scheduling. So you can have the full picture of your factory and how it is performing at this moment. This dashboard is also available on the web. The production managers and the production directors can easily access the information on the factory at this moment by coming onto the factory state and looking here which machines are down, which ones are working, which ones are stopped because of missing stock, and with all the interaction possibilities just by clicking on it and seeing the information. After that, we come into the quality control dashboard. The quality control dashboard represents a complete analysis over all the items that were inspected in quality control and the different types of inspections that were performed. On the items, we can see the number of inspections and the amount of rejections, resulting in a calculated rejection rate for each one of them. And on the inspections, we can see how much times we performed that inspection and how much times it failed, also calculating a rejection rate per inspection. Here we again have all the interactivity possibilities. If we want to know, for example, why this finished steel piece have been rejected, we just click on here and we will see all the tests that we have done on it, how much we have failed, and the rejection rate corresponding to each one of them. In the same way, if we have a test that we have a big rejection rate and we want to understand what are all the products for which I'm doing the same inspection and that are failing, I can just click here and see. So I see that on product appearance, the only item that is failing is this one. On pH, only the chlorine gas is failing. On active ingredient concentrations, again, only the chlorine gas have failed. But if I have more products, I will also see all of them here on the items overview list. On the right side, we also have a chart that will show the top 10 reasons for getting rejections in quality control. And here we can also click on the bars to update the details on the whole dashboard. After analyzing the rejections, we can also have some analysis over the deviations in quality control. This is a very useful analysis because if you want to have more standardized products, especially if you work with Six Sigma practices, you need to reduce the deviations as much as possible. And here, even if you don't have rejections, you can see how much you are deviating over your average measured values on quality control. So you'll see first an analytical list of all the products that were inspected, the type of inspections, the average measured values, and the deviations registered for each one of the inspections. And here, a calculated percentage of representation of the standard deviation in relation to the average measured values. So you can actually know in which types of inspections you are having more or less deviations, which results on the chart that we see here on the right, that represent the top 10 reasons for having more deviations in quality control analysis. Here you can also click on one desired type of inspection to see which products are having the most deviations in that analysis. Now, we have also something that is very useful here on the bottom of the chart, that is a control chart. This is based on the control chart that is used on the Six Sigma process that we'll have here, a control line calculated based on the global average for all the measurements of this specific analysis, and calculating the standard deviations for the different types of inspections, the different standard deviation ranges up to the upper control level and down to the lower control level. We basically have +3 deviations up and -3 deviations down. This will tell you the safe ranges that you can have for not going too far from your control line. And in the moment you see that you are going too far, then this can also be an alert for the quality control persons to know that something might be going wrong with that kind of inspection. Here I am analyzing humidity, and I can see that in this particular month, I have a very high deviation over my baseline. So this can possibly tell me that I had something bad here on this month. And as you can see, we also have a gray area around the different inspected values for each one of the months. The blue line that you see here is the average on that particular month. And the gray area is the tolerance. So in this case of humidity, I had variable tolerances across the months because I am having different products that I am inspecting with different specifications, and this is why my tolerance varies. But if I have one that is fixed, for example, the temperature, I have the temperature starting with a low tolerance, but then here it is fixed after some time, I can see how I am also performing in relation to the tolerance. And for example, if I see here on this month, the value that I inspected was below my allowed tolerance. It was in the minimum deviation range, but below what I consider as valid for the temperature in quality control. This can mean that I had in this month a rejection in quality control related to a temperature inspection. And if I minimize this, I can see that effectively I have this chlorine gas that was rejected because of deviation in temperature in that month. The quality control can also be accessed by the web with all the possibilities as well as we have inside SAP Business One. We can click on the items to see the rejections. We can see the control charts from the web as well, and even add this control chart as a panel on the quality control department for them to see how is the performance for the different types of inspections. So if I want to know for pH, I can just click here and see the control chart for pH. If I want to know active ingredient concentration, I can also see it here, and so on. For the quality control dashboard, we also have some pre-built filters. We can see, for example, data from this year and from the last year, also from this quarter and last quarter, this month and last month, and even define our custom filter for seeing the data in the quality control chart. After that, we go into our maintenance dashboard. The maintenance dashboard provides a very complete analysis over all the maintenance data coming from the Beas maintenance module. So for this particular dashboard, you also need to have the industrial maintenance module for you to have the data on the dashboard. Here we have, first of all, a categorization of the maintenances that we have performed. So we have corrective maintenance, predictive, and preventive maintenance. Seeing the number of orders we have in each category, how much each one of them costed to me, and the planned cost that I had for each one of them. And if I want to know a breakdown of this cost in materials and labor, I can just click on it and see on the chart how much I had of material cost and labor cost. And also, if I want to see the materials that I have effectively consumed, I can see it here on the bottom on the maintenance material area by seeing here also the planned quantities and how much I have effectively used of maintenance materials. Then we have the maintenance statuses, seeing how much we have of orders in work, closed or planned, and the types, seeing, for example, how much maintenance I had for resources, customer equipment, tools, or internal equipment. I can also see here the different reasons why we have corrective maintenance. And if you want to know the resources that had problems because of the same reasons, we can just click here and see the list of resources that had corrective maintenance for the same reasons, as well as how much each one of the resources is costing us for having corrective maintenance performed. Here on the maintenance materials, we can see the list of all the materials that we are planning to use or that we have used in maintenance. And if we want to know this data for one particular equipment, we can just click on it and see the detail here on the chart, as this is also completely interactive. The maintenance dashboard can also be used to forecast maintenance data on the future. If I want to know how much I will spend in maintenance in the next quarter, I can just click here and see a projection of the materials I need to use, and also with a stock check showing how much we have purchased and comparing the stock to the requirements, so we know our possible missing stock for maintenance, and displaying here the estimated cost for material, labor, and the total projected maintenance cost for the next quarter. We can see this even for the next year and for the next month, next 7 days, or define our custom filter for maintenance. On the maintenance chart, we can also see the failure behavior for our equipment. So if I want to know how a specific equipment is failing over time, I just need to click on the failures over time chart. And I'm going to see the number of failures that I'm having for this equipment on the different months. And also I can analyze my completed maintenance orders, how much orders I completed, the name of the technician that completed that orders, and the remarks that the technicians informed when completing the orders. Here I don't have any in this time range, but I can see the different remarks, and clicking on the remarks, I can see the resources that had their maintenance solved for the same reasons. So I can also see what is being done to fix the different resources. Also from the maintenance materials, I can understand which resources are having their maintenance performed with the same pieces. If I want to know which machines are using maintenance parts, I can click here and see a list of all the equipments that are using it, and also the costs associated to that particular resource. And even if I want to know another material, I can just click on it and see. The maintenance chart is also available on the web. I can click here and see the maintenance chart and use the same interactivity rules as we can inside SAP Business One. Then we come into the calendars. We have a scheduling calendar that will display all the scheduling that we have planned for the different resources, showing in red all the operations that are overdue. On the top, we can see the resources that are interrupted and also orders overdue from the past. And we can see here in blue the operations that are planned to be worked on, and in green the operations that are being worked on at this moment, and included even the name of the employee that is working on that task at that moment. We can filter for different equipment if you want to know planning only for a certain resource, and we can transform the calendar into a work list that we could hand out to the shop floor by displaying all the tasks that need to be worked on. Here we can also see the employees that are working on at this moment. So this is also a tool for the production supervisors and managers to understand how the production is being executed. And I can also transform this in more summarized views by viewing my production plan by month, seeing the different days on the month and what I have planned, or by week, seeing here the different days in the week and what I have planned for each one of the days. We also have a calendar for maintenance. In the maintenance calendar, we can see over time all the maintenances that we have planned, with the possibility to filter by different maintenance objects. We can select the different resources or tools or customer equipment or internal equipment to see what we have of planned maintenance for each one of them. And we can even see, for example, apart from the planned maintenance, the maintenances that we have in work at this moment, and the maintenances that are closed we see as historical data here on the chart. If we have them in green on the calendar, it means that the maintenance is being worked on. If it's blue, it is planned. And if it is red, it is a maintenance related to an interruption. So this resource have a corrective maintenance associated to it that is currently stopping my production process. So I can see it in red as an alert for me to work on that maintenance as soon as possible to be able to release the work orders that are stopped. And finally, we have a Kanban board that is a very simplified way for you to understand what you have planned in production. Inside the Kanban board, we can see a list of all the orders that are overdue, the orders that are scheduled for today, the orders that are in work, or the orders that are scheduled for the future, and even the ones that I have completed on this year. Here, you see the details of the orders, including the item code that's being manufactured, the quantities and how much you completed from the planned quantities, the dates planned to start and finish, and a bar showing how much you have completed from that order.